morning and welcome to Rising. We have such a great show for you today. We're here on Monday morning, rested and relaxed after a really gorgeous weekend in the nation's capital. The temperatures came down. It's just been lovely to be outside finally.
I am delighted the temperatures and the humidity came down. I was in New York for the weekend, which was equally lovely, but glad to be back here.
Yes.
Glad to be with you.
Glad to be discussing the news, and I think you're doing a Niles Notes today on a very serious subject, but I have my opening radar on an even more serious, world consequential topic.
The gravest of topics, Robby. Tell us all about it.
Let's get right to it. You've probably guessed, everybody still talking about that Sydney Sweeney jeans ad. Now, in fact, there's a new dynamic to this whole controversy now that multiple news outlets have confirmed the actress is, in fact, a registered Republican. Boom goes the dynamite. Now, Sweeney has been registered as a Republican in Florida since June of 2024. Why does this matter at all? Well, it really doesn't, except some liberals are probably treating this as evidence that the jeans ad was really promoting fascism or white supremacy or something like that, now that they know Sweeney is indeed a Republican. Here's the ad once more if for some reason you've been living under a rock and have somehow missed this whole kerfuffle.
If you said that you want to buy the jeans, I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sydney Sweeney has very jeans.
Now, while there's absolutely nothing groundbreaking about using an attractive woman to sell a product, in particular clothing, some joy-killing liberals on social media have reacted negatively to the ad, claiming Sweeney's appeal to genetics is a racist dog whistle. By calling attention to her blonde hair and blue eyes, she was promoting the idea that blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people represent the ideal beauty standard. Now, I know what you're about to say. Just because a couple people were outraged about something doesn't mean this is really happening. It's wrong to impute the absurd opinions of just a few random internet accounts to the population or a movement at large. In the same way that it would be wrong to accuse like all Republicans of being racist just because one maybe right-wing X-account was mad about a black actress being cast as the Little Mermaid, for instance. Just like that's wrong, it's also wrong to say all liberals triggered by the Sydney Sweeney ad, etc. I agree with that. It was just a few people at first. But since then, well, I mean, major mainstream liberal commentators are weighing in, and you can no longer make the case that no real person was actually offended by the ad. The Washington Post published this headline, How American Eagle's Sydney Sweeney Good Jeans ad went wrong, which clearly gives credence to the idea that there's something sinister about the ad. Similarly, NBC News recognized there's an outcry from irate woke liberals, writing American Eagle sparks backlash for touting Sydney Sweeney's great jeans. The Atlantic article about the controversy laments that people are fighting about the ad, and especially the conservatives are championing it, but the Atlantic's writer essentially endorses the liberal freakout, writing that it's understandable why liberals would see this ad as part of a, quote, unbridled shift toward cultural whiteness. And progressive commentator Mark Lamont Hill, he certainly seemed upset about the ad. Here he was on Piers Morgan.
The point here is to judge human beings based on their genes and to decide that you have good genes and you have bad genes isn't in and of itself a racist project. That's the point. So no, it's not that I think that I have good genes and you can't say anyone else has good genes. I'm saying let's get rid of the good genes narrative, particularly when it's based on hair and eyes and body type. Why? Because those things are racially coded. In other words, if I say that straight hair is good genes or blonde hair is good genes, and no, I'm not after watching an ad Googling someone to figure out their natural roots. You'd be shocked to know how many people don't do that.
My point in all this is conservatives are being accused of making a mountain out of a molehill. There's a woke war on Sydney Sweeney. But if you look at what the progressive liberals are saying, it seems to me like a lot of them were genuinely triggered by this ad. American Eagle, to its credit, is not apologizing. They are standing by it. Done for now are the days where corporations would bend the knee to the offended wokesters. If anything, this controversy is probably good for business, though I seriously doubt the company had any idea what was about to happen. It's because the concept of having good genes is not political. Genetics is real. Sorry if that's a newsflash to you. Importantly, the concept of genetics can be separated entirely from the concept of race. Saying that this specific white woman has good genetics and pleasing aesthetic attributes does not mean only white women have good genetics and pleasing aesthetic attributes. Just because beauty, intelligence, and other human traits are genetically inherited doesn't mean they're racially exclusive. That's the key difference here. Of course, all human beings have equal worth, rights, dignity, regardless of whether they are attractive and intelligent. As for Sweeney being a Republican, I, for one, have gotten used to my politics not being well represented by actors and actresses in liberal Hollywood. But I can separate art and artist. And perhaps it's time, long past time rather, that liberals learned to do the same. So here we are in Sydney Sweeney News Cycle Week 3, perhaps?
Again, yes, certainly.
And it is still being discussed quite a bit.
It is being discussed quite a bit. I find the outrage about the ad ridiculous, and I was talking with our friend Amber about it on Friday, and I do think it is pretty absurd. And obviously I'm not very exercised about some sort of white supremacist message being passed along by it. Now, I do think part of this is it's summer, there isn't a massive amount of news happening. It's often a season where otherwise fairly insubstantive stories get a lot of coverage, and I think that has fueled it as well. Where I would, I think, certainly differ in emphasis from your radar is the idea that liberals are exclusively more inclined toward, for want of a better term, snowflake kind of behavior. And we look at some of the things that there has been conservative outrage about comparatively recently, and I think those are often equally spurious. I think you and I spoke about the fact that the director of the new Superman movie said about it being an immigrant story, and conservatives, or at least some vocal conservatives online, were like, I'm never going to see Superman. You know, Bill Burr has become increasingly critical of billionaires, and for this sin, people are like, he's gone woke. He used to have some guts, and now, you know, I wouldn't entertain him. The funniest one to me, I don't know if you recall this because it is a couple of years ago, the M&M's outrage on the conservative side.
They're transing our M&Ms.
Exactly. M&M's were being desexified.
Oh, they're being desexualized.
Yes.
So you can't, you got to be in this zone where you have your M&Ms are, if they're too sexy,
right,
then that's, what are you know, I don't want my kids to see this, you'll have conservative outrage, and then if they're not sexy enough, it's because wokeness is making us sterile and unwilling to reproduce, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. So conservatives are outraged about the appropriate level of sexiness of M&M cartoons all the time. So
I bet that
all
was
of
a
these
summer story too.
I think it probably was. But these things are just equally ridiculous. I do think it's unfortunate that we're kind of in a cultural place where everyone's constantly outraged about everything, but I don't really think it's a uniquely liberal or uniquely conservative.
I mean, what are these, you know, like the Washington Post and the Atlantic, like what are they doing here? Because I would have been perfectly fine to defend if people were out there saying, look, it's just two people on Twitter.
Right.
No, there's no real outrage about this. I would have agreed with that. I've said that in the past. Like I brought up the Black Little Mermaid example.
Sure.
But then something happens where it is just two people at the beginning, but then there's enough coverage of that then it's not just two people anymore.
Right. No, that's
and you can't say it anymore. It's the way the news articles from, you know, kind of mainstream or liberal people have I've actually surprised by how much credibility they gave to the outrage.
No, I think that is a fair point. I was looking at a CNN article online, which at a guess, I would say was between 1,800 and 2,000 words about all of this. The experts weigh in on how racist it was, most of them arguing that it was. I don't see it at all myself. I also don't think it merits that level of in-depth investigation, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah. Well, maybe this will be the final word on the Sydney Sweeney conversation.
We've done the authoritative take of Sydney Sweeney, so it's done.
All right, we've got lots more to come on Rising today. Next up, President Trump does have some choice words for Chuck Schumer over Democrats stonewalling Trump's nominees. We'll be right back to discuss.